is that we used to think of 60-40 or 70-30, more for external, more for domestic, but it's now increasing. Increasing at a time we devalue our currency and our foreign receipts is not so much coming. So there is a challenge to that, and the federal government is responsible for almost 90-something% of the debt, none for states. So when you look at the constitutional schedules and even revenue allocation, you will know that this is not proper. If you look at the debt stock over the 4 years, okay, the Naira component was increasing in geometric proportions. 20.12%, 20.17, 16.19, and in 2023, the year of the devaluation, 110.46%. And then in 2024, 48.62. So what we have, the dollar component looks more stable, but we are borrowing a lot, particularly in Naira terms. And the fact that the foreign component is going up at a time our currency is losing value is a very critical challenge. If you look at the external debt stock and composition, the bulk of the money we borrowed is from multilateral sources. In 2020, it was 53.78% multilateral, bilateral 12.17%, and then commercial 33.4%. That trend continued in 2022, 48.6%, 2021, 48.6% for multilateral, bilateral 11.6%, the commercial one 38.2%. So that is a trend even up till 2024. But we want a situation where the multilaterals, which are more concessionary, should be far bigger, because commercial loans are what they are. They are really commercial, and they attract interest rates that even other countries do not pay because of our credit rating. The US and all these countries can even borrow for less than 1% or so, but on our own it attracts 8-10%, which is not good enough. If you look at the composition of the domestic debt, it's more or less about HGM bonds, 70-something% over the 4 years. And the challenge with these FGM bonds is that most of the times they are not project tied. The few that are tied are like the Sukuk bonds and the green bonds. Other ones are not project tied. So they could possibly use them to do recurrent expenditure. As one of the requests the president has made the other day is about paying back some things, some retirees' benefits. That's why they raise bonds. But if you remember, the idea is that borrowing should be used for capital expenditure, human development, and not just using it for recurrent expenditure. So that's the trajectory of the debt that we have. If you look at the disaggregation into sectors, we have for the agriculture sector, we have for education, we have for the social sector, we have for health and infrastructure as well. But the challenge in this case is that they give them a name that doesn't tell you what exactly they are borrowing for. Okay? Once you have this kind of nebulous things, like there are borrowings we've done for agro-industrial zones. Now, what is an agro-industrial zone? We are discussing where you can add value, process agricultural products into finished goods. Now, let's look at even something like cassava or corn. If you look at the value chain, from these things you can make industrial starch to be used in the pharmaceutical industry and to be used in the textile and even in the shoe industry. You can make glues, you can make animal foods, you can even make a number of things that you can eat on a day-to-day basis. We've been borrowing for these agro-industrial zones over the past 10 years. And they say some are in the blue states, some are in the east, some are in the north. But what exactly are we producing? Because these things are supposed to generate income for exports, and even to help us stop importing a few things that we keep importing. But not much is heard of them in terms of the practical deliverables. You are borrowing. The idea is that when you borrow, you help it to build up infrastructure, build up new industries, build up human capacity, so that your economy will expand. If you were doing revenue in terms of say 10-12 billion, by the borrowing, By the time you introduce new capacities, you could possibly be doing 15 to 20. So when it is time to pay back the 2 or 3 billion, you will be in a very good state to pay back. But the more we borrow, the more our infrastructure depreciates. For heaven's sake, if you know the amount of money we borrow for the power sector, apart from the one our government has put in, you will marvel. And nothing has changed. Even the power sector seems more to be depreciating than to be making progress. And if you look at beyond these structures in terms of the disaggregation, if you look at the debt repayment, that's where you also weep. In terms of repayment, for instance, the MTF of last year showed that as at August, we spent 7.something trillion in debt service. At the time, all we've done in capital expenditure was about 3.something. And this 3.something trillion covers education, health, power, infrastructure, you name it. 3.5 trillion as against 7.7 trillion in debt repayment. And that's not good enough. Now, coming down to issues that we should take going forward, I think that the way to run our debts, because nobody is going to pardon our debts again. I had my friend Celestine wishing they pardoned their debts again and we started afresh and then borrowing. Even if they were to pardon today, we will still borrow another one. So I'm not going to join that advocacy for any pardon. The debtor must pay. I'm sorry, it doesn't sound like the traditional civil society, because I was already doing budget work when we followed the Konji Wal and go and did this thing. We celebrated. We started on a clean slate. That was 2005, 2007, right? And we started borrowing again. We were talking, nobody agreed. Now you are banning it again, and you want them to forgive you. It will never happen. You must realize to pay your debts. It will never happen. You must pay. So, moving forward, I think we need more transparency and opportunity for popular participation. The Senate and House are giving their committees 2 weeks to report to them, and they will throw down the government. What do we do to say, please let us have that schedule? Fix a public hearing and listen to us so that we can say something about this bill to determine if these projects are proper or whether there are some projects we will say should be removed. Secondly, there is nothing like economic principles again. It's about state power. Donald Trump has shown us the way when he says America first. Can we have a Nigeria first economic and procurement policy? The president has said, buy made in Nigeria. Can we implement it in the later? Because each time we release capital expenditure, capital funds, what it happens is that we put pressure on the foreign exchange market because everybody goes to import something. Legislators want to drive a car. They say they must drive the latest brand, 2023 model of a Toyota Prado. When there are products locally that can substitute for it, can we have a Nigerian first procurement policy and economic policy the way Donald Trump is thinking of America first? When we say domestic resource mobilization, we simply don't want to use our senses. A greater part of last week I spent it in Ibadan. What did I go to Ibadan to do? We came up with the idea with the work we are doing with small-scale women farmers that the federal government funds 15 agricultural research institutes, billions every year. And in those institutes, when I look at their faculty, they are professors, doctors. So I went to NIHOT in Ibadan. I went to the Institute of Agricultural Research and Technology in Ibadan. And we met with the professors and they said, what exactly are you guys doing? Every year, tomato moves from 5,000 to 15,000 per basket because of what tomato brought. You are NIHOT, you are supposed to research into vegetables. And before we could say Jack, the first day we spent on a needs assessment with the local farmers. The second day, we went to the research institute. And lo and behold, when we went to the research institute, there was so much. I'm not saying what somebody told me. I first of all did an online research on their website. And I went there and said, I want to see this thing practically. I got tired at some point because I couldn't get to see all they wanted to show me. I was the one who got tired and told them that it's enough. These people have developed a lot of research products and materials. But there is no link between them and the local farmers. The research institute was in Ibadan. The small-scale women farmers were from Oyo, the same Ibadan, Oyo State. I was linking them up for the first time to say, you can come here to procure seeds. Because the seeds that they made, the tomato seeds they have, are disease resistant, pest resistant, that if you plant it, the tomato plot will not even affect them. But here was a distance of less than 10 kilometers. The women do not know what the research institutes are, and they were there complaining. And the research institute, the professors were sitting down there. If you go to, we went also to the Serious Research Institute in Badegi. I sent another team with the small fund in Niger State. The same thing happened. We sent another team to the National Serious Research Institute in Umudiko-Mwaya. The same thing, 3 locations last week. Umudiko-Mwaya, Badegi in Niger State, and Oyo, Ibadan. The same story going around. And you are busy telling me you want to borrow, you want to import grass. When these people have something more than the grass you want to import from Brazil to fatten your cow. And all the things I told the Federal Ministry of Agriculture was trying to do, they were laughing because they showed me clearly what they have done, but nobody is taking it up. Extension Service was supposed to link them between those women and the Agricultural Research Institutes, but Extension Service is dead. So why will we borrow to do what our own human resources have already put in place? All we need is to utilize them. And then that also brings me to the full value chain. Because I also looked at agricultural machinery. We went and borrowed $1 billion to import tractors from Brazil. When we had engagement with the Research Institute, Agricultural Mechanization Institute in Ilori, they showed us all the kind of things that they have designed. And the prices they told us of this agricultural equipment and machinery, most of them that are gender friendly, are less than 50% of the cost of imported ones. Yet we are taking loans of billions of dollars to import those machinery. So when we are discussing value chains, it should include even those who are already researching and doing a lot of things for us to be able to utilize them instead of importing. And the key word run throughout all of these things is accountability, accountability, accountability. We have removed fuel subsidy, we are saving money running to 7 to 10 trillion. We have already started raising more money. The Timber Administration told us that they moved from 7-8% of GDP in terms of revenue, that they are now 13%. Another new money. So why, and then we floated the foreign exchange in Naira. So why are we still going for this humongous borrowing? When Jonathan removed a little of fuel subsidy after the challenge, he set up Shopee. We saw what he wanted to do. When the Malayan Gogo General, who from time to time gives us some little money time we are broke from his grave, Abacha, removed the little pennies, he set up PTDF. Headed by Barr, right? What has Bola Ahmed Tinubu set up after removing fuel subsidy, hook, line, and sinker? Can anybody tell me, please? Maybe I'm getting too old to remember.
What have we done with it?
Hello?
What has he done with it?
Let me stop here.
Somebody responding to your question said CNG. I have 2 of my vehicles converted to CNG. The average time I spend on the line is 6 hours. So yes, I can tell you that for a fact.
6 hours?
Yes.
Why?
So in 1 week, in 1 week I went twice, and by the end of the week I went down to malaria. And I came back to my wife and I was asking, what is the real economic benefit of going out? Because if I want to save 50,000 naira of fuel weekly, which is the average of what I spend on my own car, not my wife's car, and I need to get malaria, and you know how much is a good malaria treatment now? It's somewhere around 14,000 and 24,000, depending on the brand of drugs. Yes. The time lost to productivity, you can't even put value to that. And so you begin to ask yourself, what does it? And you buy the CNG in Nigeria, the kits and the technology are terrible. So they give you back pressure and in 2 days you are back to the filling station. That's a long story. But again, let us please put our hands together for this matter. Personally, I've interfaced with Onyekpere when I was writing for NGA Network magazine. It's a magazine that looked essentially at the top, at the fourth center, with Mohamed Buguyata. That's over 20-25 years ago. And like I told you earlier, this man has found a way to put a stop on age. The brain has been growing younger. But it's the first time that I will see him on podium ask for a seat. If our leaders,
Tinubu defeated.
if our leaders will put in half of the work that men like this are putting into the things they do, this country will be much, much better. He's spoken to a number of things. He's spoken to public debt, you know, as a proportion of our national debt. He's talking to the inconsistencies that Viola spoke about and the kind of effort he had to make. And they know the kind of trouble he was going to bring to the table, so they had to give him a copy of the 2023 budget. So today, as of today, I think it is safe to say that those of us who have questions about the 2023 budget, you can basically do a request to the office of Mr. Eze and you will get an authentic. FYI is not applicable. Just basically show up and you will get a copy. He's raised a number of questions. The one that struck me, essentially, is his canvassing for a Nigeria first procurement policy. If we cast our mind back to the days of Obasanjo, you know, Obasanjo there was a strong popular policy around Buy Nigeria.
Barr.
Yes, you remember the current additional guy with his cassava bread, HF project and all of that. And then we moved on to other presidents and they even tried to document it by way of presidential order. There was an order under Barr that was signed off when he stepped out of the government. I think it was done by Osibanjo, that talked about Buy Nigeria. And these 2 days, I've been caught on that traffic every time the #1 president is going. Even though these days we don't know which of the traffic is caused by him or members of his entourage. I counted 45 SUV. How many of you have seen the videos of his arrival in Lagos? There were 60 SUV. A typical SUV has a tank of, I'm not sure they don't run on CNG by the way. They have a tank of about 200 liters of fuel. 60 of those SUV have to accompany somebody who can just do a chopper from the state house to the airport. Now, the point I'm trying to make is from the vehicles they drive to the way they look at the things they do, there is nothing about it that promotes the Buy Nigeria agenda. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And you know, so you begin to wonder, do they even practice this thing? They told us that you need express permission from the president to travel out of this country for a conference. Has that changed? Or for medical treatment, has that changed? Today, if any of them will tell you about any medical treatment, they will tell you how they have traveled abroad, including the poverty-stricken former minister who was telling us how he went somewhere abroad to get a medical treatment. So he set up a number of things I would like us to delve into. If you have questions or contributions to deepen this conversation, I would like to see your hands up so that we can take numbers.